Hi, my name is Cedric Hawkins, and I'm going to be giving my online presentation for English 236. And I'm looking forward to doing this, and I hope you enjoy what I have planned for you. I'm going to be analyzing sorrow through the lenses of a feminist perspective. Her character really touched me, and I can't wait to touch on it with you guys. So, in Toni Morrison's novel Mercy, it tells a historical story of black women living in the 1600s and the middle of slavery. And this is historical fiction, so everything that is happening is true. It happened in real time, but the characters in the story are fictional. And one of the main characters in the story is Florence. She's a 16-year-old who works on the farm of Jacob and Rebecca Vark. And another compelling element of the story that I wanted to add was that it adds different perspectives. So while it shifts from Florence and Lena, we also have a third person perspective that helps explain characters such as Jacob, Rebecca, the blacksmith, and characters like Sorrow. And I thought this was really intriguing on Morrison's part to do, and it was held my interest and kept me involved in the story. And one of the compelling characters in Morrison's story is Sorrow. What makes her compelling, in my opinion, is her backstory and how it shapes her current character in the story. And not only do I view Sorrow as a strong woman, I view her as an underdog, as someone who had to endure so much in her young life, and in the end, she comes out strong because of it, and it develops her character. And like I said earlier, I can't wait to dive into it and discuss what makes her so important. So, as a child, Sarah was pretty much left on her own after a shipwreck claimed the lives of everyone on the ship, and she was the sole survivor. And not much is known about her parents, so it's pretty clear that she's had to fend for herself all her life before she was saved. And one of the quotes that comes from the passage is from 117, and it says, "What she remembered was waking up after falling to the floor under the hammock, all alone. Captain, her father, nowhere." So, with this knowledge, it's pretty known that she had to teach herself how to survive, and that's what develops her character. So, the one person that does assist her during her life is Twin. And Twin is Sorrow's creation that she came up with in her mind to help her cope with the situation of being the lone survivor stranded on land. And she becomes her lifeline throughout the story, and she becomes her confidant when things go wrong in her life, or she shuts down mentally and doesn't want to talk to people. So I thought this was a pretty cool example that comes from page 118. And so, a bit of context. At this point, she becomes saved by a white haired woman, and she's taken to a new farm to perform slave tasks for the family. And she's been by herself all her life. So it's clear that she doesn't know how to interact with people, and she, quite frankly, does not want to. And when the lady's asking her questions and the family's asking her questions, it's noted that when they asked her name, Twin whispered no. So she shrugged her shoulders and found that a convenient gesture for the other information she could not or pretend not to remember. And like I said, this shows the power that Twin has over Sorrow when it comes to her behavior in the story and how she copes with the different situations in her life. Because it's evident that she doesn't know how, and she doesn't know a way to cope with what she knows. And her escape is through Twin. And Twin is pretty much the only person who really understands her. So that was an interesting passage that I found in the story that talks about her character. So it's clear with those examples that Sarah was able to use Twin to block out her reality and live a fantasy with someone who she felt loved her more than anyone else. And due to the trauma that she suffered from the shipwreck and being on her own, Sarah was dealing with dissociation personality disorder all throughout the novel. And when I was doing some research, the National Alliance on Mental Health defines it as an involuntary escape from reality characterized by disconnection between thoughts, identity, and consciousness and memory. People from all age groups and racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds can experience a dissociative disorder. And they also found that women are more likely than men to be diagnosed with a dissociative disorder. And we actually discussed this in class where we noted that Sarah was using Twin as an escape mechanism to not have to deal with her situation and not confront the problems that she had faced. And it's very unfortunate that she does this, but it's also what keeps her going. We find examples throughout the novel where she's on the farm and she can't perform the task, but she still does it. So using Twin is what keeps her going through life, and that's what keeps her motivated. And another thing that I wanted to note it was that even though this story is historical fiction, I truly do wonder how many African American women, like Sorrow, disassociate themselves mentally from their living situation to help them cope with slavery. And even though we have come far from slavery in the African American community, we still face racial oppression, but still, I can't imagine the amount of women like Sorrow who had that personality disorder. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the lack of respect by men. During a conversation between the Sawyer and Jacob Vark when he was giving Sorrow away, he said, "Don't mind her name. You can name her anything you want. My wife calls her Sorrow because she was abandoned. She is a bit mongrelized, as you can see. However, be that she will work without complaint." And I just look at that as a lack of human decency just to refer to her as you can name her whatever you want. It's just not right. And it also shows her character by knowing that she will work without complaint. And another heartbreaking point of the story is when Sarah loses her child and Lena has her let the child drift away in a river or lake. And because of this, this leaves a very devastating impact on her character development throughout the story. And it takes her at least a year or over a year to truly get over the loss of her child. And the one person who helped her cope with that situation was Twin. And the narrator noted in one of the passages that, "I'm here," said the girl with the matching face, matching her own exactly. "I'm always here." With Twin, she was less afraid, and the two began to search the silent, lasting ship. And so this shows once again that Twin is able to provide Sorrow the support that other characters in the story should be giving her, but they aren't able to because they just don't understand the trauma that Sorrow deals with. And also, Sorrow has a difficult time trusting people just because of her past life. But this is just another devastating thing that happens to her character, and it truly develops her. So I would say the climax, or really the turning point in the story, is when Sorrow becomes pregnant and gives birth to her second child. And because of this, this helps Sorrow gradually find her purpose as a woman, and she understands herself more. And we notice that throughout the story and throughout her life, really, Sorrow has looked towards men and Twin to help find direction in her life. And this is evident when the narrator notes that although all her life she had been saved by men, Captain, the Sawyers' sons, Sir, and now Will and Scully, she was convinced at this time she had done something important by herself. Twins' absence was hardly noticed as she concentrated on her daughter. Instantly, she knew what to name her, knew also what to name herself. And I think this was incredible character development on Morrison's part because we see all the turmoil and all the recent events that Sorrow goes through in her life. And it's very depressing and it's unfortunate, but in the sense you root for her as the audience and as a fan in the story, and you are very proud of her development and you're proud that she's able to develop that sense of self because that's what saves her life at the end of the story, in her story. And now that she understands her role as a woman and what she's been put on this earth to do, which is provide for her child, she no longer needs to search for men or rely on Twin to find validation and acceptance. She can find all those things in her child because her child is what loves her the most out of all of those men, and including Twin. So now, being able to focus on herself, she finds the hope that she's been looking for as a woman. So I find these two quotes to be very fulfilling, and it caps her story off very well as a very well-rounded but also complex character, in that Twin was gone, traceless, and unmissed by the only person who knew her. Sorrow's wandering stopped too. Now she attended routine duties, organizing them around her infant's needs, impervious to the complaints of others. And the quote follows up with, "She had looked into her daughter's eyes, saw in them the gray glisten of a winter sea, while a ship sailed by the lee. I am your mother," she said. "My name is complete." Looking at this through a feminism gender studies, it's clear that black women faced more suffering and struggle at obtaining respect than white women did during the 1600s when this story takes place. While systematically all women during this time period, they didn't really have any rights, it was black women that faced more disrespect and oppression and prejudice through slavery and how they were treated. Black women had less of a chance of becoming educated than a white woman who was nothing more than a housewife. And it's just the facts. This is well known. And it's very unfortunate. And I think Morrison did a very telling job of telling that portrayal through the use of characters like Florence and Lena, and especially with Sorrow. So what makes Sorrow appealing to me is that she continues to live her life despite the journey her life has been. She has no role models, she had a stillborn baby, she's been taken advantage of by men, she gave birth to another child and has to deal with slavery, yet she does so with the courage and optimism to continue to live her life. And the birth of her second child gave Sarah enough purpose to change her name to complete and live a life that is meaningful, which is something that's very difficult to do during this time period, yet she chooses to do it. Through analyzing Sarah's life, people can understand that no matter what you struggle with in life or what you go through, there's always hope in the end, so long as you continue to work hard and discover your purpose in life for what you want to achieve. And this right here are my references from my works cited page. And that's all I got. I had a really fun time working on this project and editing everything. And thank you so much for listening to this. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.